Whenever a student enters a class of accounting, the last thing that he wants to know is the history of accounting. But that's the first thing that any teacher who is serious to get the students love accounting must do. We are all suckers of stories. Our brain is wired for narratives. So even in this chapter of accounts and finance, I want to weave a story for students in order for them to find a relationship with a lifeless monster that account and financing appears to them. I want you to imagine a time long, long ago. In prehistory, there would be no concept of poverty and wealth. But as people would gather in bigger and bigger tribes, that concept of ownership would have arisen. So, as you can see in the diagram below, the story of accounting begins in 8000 BC. We can call it the age of the token because at that time money were clay tokens, grains, animals, and so on. Then the same tokens and sticks were used as means to keep record. At that time, being rich and being able to count your tokens or sticks or animals or grains was the nearest thing to accounting. So this practice was developed independently across various parts of the world, from Mesopotamia to Iraq, Syria, Turkey, and so on. Then the next part of the story takes us to the 600s AD. Now, the age of what we call the ledger or the single book entry begins. It certainly coincides with the increasing population and thus the trade between people. Every transaction of selling and buying is recorded chronologically in a ledger or what we now call files or tables. This is accounting 101. What to do with those numbers, which is the domain of finance, is a knowledge that is not available at this time. Again, this single entry accounting flourishes in different parts of the world, like the Roman and Arab empires. In the 1300s, the age of record keeping or the double entry system that students find so confusing and a torture begins. This new system had been developed in Venice by traders and it had been a secret for several decades, if not 100 years among them. It was very useful for those traders to manage their expanding enterprises and to help them make strategies to grow their wealth. Yes, they had taken accounting to the next level. It is in this era that the key figure called Luca Pacioli, also known as the father of accounting, comes at the forefront. If he had the patent or intellectual property right for the book that he wrote called Summa de Arithmetica, that contained the outline for this double entry system, even in those days, he would have become a billionaire if somehow his descendants would have gotten the rights for that book and the use of the intellectual property double entry system he presented. They would now be inconceivably rich from royalties. This is, of course, because even after almost 600 years he wrote that book, we are still using the same system in every single organizations around the world. Then in the next stage of the history of accounting, we reach the 1900s and the Industrial Revolution. At this time, the steam engine is discovered and general purpose technologies take the lead to transform economies beyond the wildest imagination of anyone. So the GAAP or the generally accepted accounting principles are developed. This becomes the bedrock of a standardized accounting system throughout the world. Basically, it was like introducing a metric system to measure a distance. Before, we just showed with our hands how long something was, but later on, we used either meters or feet. With the rapid expansion of economies, merger acquisitions, capital restructuring became inevitable, and finance, as we know it, was born. So at this stage, the two fields, accounting and finance, became distinctly separate. While accounting was used as a scoreboard, finance was used as an analytical tool to make strategies. At the forefront was Adam Smith with his Wealth of Nation book, and John Maynard Keynes, who developed economic theories based on those financial statements that the double entry system proposed by Lucio in 1494 had enabled. In the 1950s, the standardization of accounting continues. Then, like there was GAAP for accounting earlier, now there is something called CAPM, or Capital Asset Pricing Model, and the modern portfolio theory for finance standardization. Basically, as the volume keeps increasing, we need more structure and systems so that everybody can understand one another and there is no confusion between one person's financial report and another's. Now, the distinction between accounting and finance is at its highest, where the accountants are known as the bean counters and the financiers are known as the wealth creators. So it is at this time that there is a boom in the academic adaptation of accounts and financing. It is no more just a tool of the trade, but an academic subject with a great scope. Everything is about organizations at this point. But in the 1970s, the age of personal finance is heralded. Technology is more accessible, and thus the difficult part of keeping ledgers that would have been physical and thus bulky was replaced by software, thus making record keeping for individuals simple. What was only well, for organizations, that also for very big ones, which was to maximize their wealth, became a reality for the layman. In this way, retirement planning systems like the 401k were born. Again, lacking an organizational case, accounting was about keeping the records, and finance was about deciding where to invest the savings and also how to allocate the capital earned from salaries, dividends, and so on. Writers like Tobias and Quinn opened the window for personal finance as opposed to corporate finance. Then there were writers like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, which I mentioned earlier also, who came in the arena of personal finance and make it cool and sexy. In the 2000s, with the advent of technology and automation that allowed for quicker and more efficient data management along with data analysis, accounting was overshadowed by finance. Today, they coincide, and it's very difficult to separate the two because a single transaction can directly create a new financial report and that can be analyzed right away. In addition, because it's so easy to keep your accounts thanks to the softwares, the main problem became financial decisions. This is where Nobel laureates Daniel Kahneman and Richard Thaler, with their book Think Slow and Think Fast, come in. They bring the concept of cognitive bias that affect our strategic decisions that we think are based on financial analysis of our accounts. And so we are in 2025 as I'm writing this book. Most of the students have no clue of how we got here in terms of accounting and finance and what it means for us. As children of the modern ages, we tend to forget the hardship that our parents must have gone through when there was no television, motor engine, and the food technology as we know it. We can even go further in the past where we were hunter gatherers. When we put our own existence in a bigger historical context, we begin to appreciate more the things that we have now. We begin to love even what we hate, whatever it might be. If we can know the story behind them. So now you know the story behind accounting and what you are being taught. There is still so much to be learned, but now that you know what was behind the curtains, you'll be able to tolerate the pain that the studies of accounting and finance will give you without doubt. You must know that nothing that is great comes without pain. It holds true for the studies of accounts and financing also. Finally, I want you to take a look at the diagram on the right hand side. Whereas I had told you the history of accounting and finance earlier, now I want to tell you your own possible stories after studying accounts and finance. What you must understand is that by choosing the management stream or the business stream, you have forsaken any possibility of becoming a doctor, engineer, or pilot. So, what you're going to do with your life and how you're going to make a living. Your most probable story is as shown in the diagram. You will do a bachelor's degree in management, most likely. Some of you will go into computer science, hotel management, and humanities. Some of those who graduate from the bachelor's degree will do an MBA. So either you complete your master's degree or you get into your career after your bachelor's degree because you have chosen the management stream. And unless you become an entrepreneur right away, you will be entering the job market as an accountant or an assistant in sales and marketing or in operations department. Career progress will be as shown as follows. Accountants will be promoted to finance managers, and some of them will reach the level of chief finance officer or CFO. The second group in sales will be promoted to sales managers, and again, some of the star performers will become chief marketing officers or CMOs. The same holds true for those in operations who will be promoted to become operational managers and then chief operating officers or COOs. As you can see in the diagram, the chief executive officer or CEO can be any of those three chiefs, but most likely and in most cases, they either come from CFO or CMOs. Nonetheless, as a CEO, accounting and finance knowledge is a prerequisite. Like you would not have a driver who cannot read the speedometer, you would not want a CEO who cannot read the financial statements. You might disagree with me, but if you still do not like to study accounts and finance from your class 11 and 12 with earnest, then the only way for you to become a boss or a CEO is to become reborn as the rich heir of family wealth. Alternatively, you can accumulate money from various legal and illegal sources, then start up your own company and become its chairman or investor and thus the CEO. But still, you'll still need to have to drive your organization, and it should need for you to be able to have your dashboard functioning, which is accounting, and to be able to read the various speedometers, odometers, fuel gauge, the heat of the engine, and even the rear view mirror or the front view glass in order to drive safely and to your desired destination. This is accounting and finance. So now that you know both the history of how accounting and finance came into being and your own possible stories as a student who chose the management stream as opposed to any other streams, I'm sure that you will be open to the pain of learning account and finance, which I have told you early on is inevitable. You've got to do the grind. There is no other way. But now you know why you have to do it.